Two occupants climbed out of the SUV and tried to run. They didn't get far. Officers quickly located and detained both individuals nearby, but there was still one person inside the vehicle. At around 1:30 in the morning, officers spotted a red SUV driving recklessly through the city. According to police, the driver ran a red light and failed to yield to an ambulance that was responding with its lights and sirens activated. Believing the driver could be impaired, officers attempted a traffic stop, but the SUV had no intention of stopping. Instead, the driver accelerated away and a pursuit began.
All units 3A1 is in pursuit of a possible DUI driver northbound Cooper, red SUV.
For the next several minutes, the SUV raced through city streets at high speed. Air support soon took over tracking from above, while patrol units followed from a distance. As the pursuit continued, the driver repeatedly ignored traffic signals, drove recklessly, and created a serious danger for everyone on the road. One detail that's easy to miss is that officers eventually reduced their involvement while the helicopter continued monitoring the vehicle from above. Many departments use this tactic because a suspect who no longer sees police directly behind them may slow down and drive less aggressively. The pursuit stretched on for several miles, but eventually, air support lost visual contact due to airspace restrictions near the airport. Without visual contact, officers terminated the pursuit. For a brief moment, it looked like the chase was over. It wasn't.
Westbound, we're averted from Brighton. Unit is westbound Vernon from Brighton. Southbound turn on Halldale from Vernon.
What are they doing?
Unit is southbound Halldale from Vernon. Unknown number of occupants. And continue to southbound Halldale.
Adam 1, be advised, there's still primary.
Units continuing southbound Halldale. 248, 381 Roger. 251, continue southbound Halldale. Units continuing southbound Halldale through 51st. Westbound 53 from Halldale. Unit is eastbound 53rd from Halldale. Seeker, and continuing westbound 153. Unit is westbound 53 from passing danger.
31 to license plate.
Third, southbound turn on the western from 53. Continue to westbound Century, approaching Prairie. Continuing westbound Century, approaching Prairie. Clear Prairie, continue to westbound Century. Westbound Century to, continuing westbound Century to Prairie. Suspect is approaching LAX airspace. Through Rail, continue westbound Century. Vehicle is westbound Century to La Brea. Fourth unit on the pursuit, identify only. 331. 331, Roger. Through Eaglewood, continue westbound Century. Vehicle is continuing westbound Century through Inglewood. Approaching the 405 freeway and continue westbound on Century. Vehicle continuing westbound Century, approaching the 405 freeway.
70, if I have my package complete, all of the units shut down.
Sure, 3070 authorizing a total of 4 units in the pursuit. All other units shut down your response. Unit is continuing westbound Century through the Panic. Continuing now westbound Century, approaching Aviation. All units of all frequency stand by. 381 is in pursuit of a DUI driver. Westbound Sentry approaching aviation vehicle is a red SUV, unknown number of occupants.
Only moments after officers ended the pursuit, the driver ran another red light. This time, there was no avoiding the consequences. The SUV slammed into a Honda Civic, entering the intersection. The impact was so severe that both vehicles were thrown off course. This part of the incident often raises questions. The crash happened after officers had already terminated the pursuit. Investigators later launched a separate review to examine the entire incident, including the pursuit itself. As smoke and debris filled the intersection, 2 occupants climbed out of the SUV and tried to run. They didn't get far. Officers quickly located and detained both individuals nearby, but there was still one person inside the vehicle. Emergency crews rushed to the scene. Unfortunately, that occupant was pronounced dead at the scene. The driver of the Honda survived and was later treated for non-life-threatening injuries. Investigators later faced another challenge. They still didn't know who had actually been driving the SUV at the time of the crash. According to police, DNA testing was conducted on the vehicle to determine who was behind the wheel when the collision occurred. One of the most unusual parts of this case is that even after a deadly crash, investigators initially couldn't determine who the driver was. That question could ultimately affect who faces criminal charges. Looking back at the footage, this case is a reminder of how quickly reckless driving can turn deadly. What began as a traffic stop over dangerous driving ended with a fatal crash, multiple injuries, and investigators still working to determine exactly who was responsible. Officers had been watching a stolen Mercedes SUV for nearly 2 hours. Eventually, 2 people got into the vehicle and drove away. At first, officers simply followed from a distance while waiting for additional units. Then something unusual happened. The SUV suddenly pulled over. A female passenger got out, and for a brief moment, it looked like the driver might surrender. He didn't. Instead, he hit the gas. That's when the pursuit officially began.
Put out! Somebody stay with the...
1083, the passenger jumped out of the vehicle. Have someone stand by with the passenger.
They're gonna get in
Pursuit of the suspect vehicle, eastbound Parthenia, approaching Bodycam. You answer?
Not yet.
All units on all frequencies stand by. 1083 is in pursuit of a white Mercedes vehicle. Eastbound Parthenia approaching Winenda. We're requesting a microbeam unit to the right.
Southbound Mason.
1083, we're going to be southbound Mason from Chase. Have a unit stand by with the passenger. 1083, disregard. We're still going to be southbound Mason, going to be Roach Crosswalk.
But the chase didn't last long. Only moments after officers initiated the pursuit, the driver raced toward an intersection and ran a red light at high speed. What happened next unfolded in an instant. The stolen Mercedes slammed into a Tesla crossing the intersection. The force of the crash flipped the SUV and sent it into 2 additional vehicles.
Whoa!
Air 10, your ETA.
About
1083, hold the air. TCTC, Sadakoy, and Mason. Let me get an RA rolling.
The boy from Mason.
and Sherman Way.
Check on the passengers here.
There's
This entire pursuit lasted only seconds. From the moment the driver decided to flee to the moment of the crash, there was barely enough time for officers to react. And that's what makes cases like this so tragic. A decision that takes only a few seconds can change several lives forever. As the overturned SUV came to rest, officers rushed toward the wreckage. Their priorities changed immediately. The pursuit was over. Now it had become a rescue scene. You can hear officers repeatedly asking how many people were inside while directing others to check on the victims. Meanwhile, officers pulled the suspect from the overturned Mercedes and took him into custody. One detail that stands out in the Bodycam footage is that officers immediately began checking on everyone involved in the crash, including innocent drivers who had nothing to do with the pursuit. Emergency crews arrived shortly afterward. Sadly, the driver of the Tesla was pronounced dead at the scene. The drivers of the other vehicles survived and were transported to hospitals for treatment. Investigators later discovered that the suspect was carrying methamphetamine and marijuana. But that wasn't the end of the investigation. There was still one major question left unanswered. Who had actually been driving the stolen Mercedes at the time of the crash? Investigators later used DNA evidence to determine who was behind the wheel. The suspect was ultimately charged with murder, felony evading causing death, and vehicle theft-related offenses. Cases like this often spark debates about police pursuits. But one fact is difficult to ignore. The person who lost her life wasn't involved in the pursuit at all. She was simply driving through an intersection when the fleeing vehicle ran a red light. Looking back at the footage, the most striking part isn't how long the pursuit lasted. It's how quickly everything happened. Within seconds, a stolen vehicle, a red light, and one decision to flee changed multiple lives forever.